Welcome to Between the Covers, the show for readers and writers and lovers of books. I'm Stephanie Larkin, and I'm a reader and a writer and a lover of book myself. I'm also a publisher at Red Penguin Books. We publish books of all types and genres, so if you have a book all ready to be published, or maybe you just have a drawer filled with hundreds of pieces of scrap paper just dying to become a book, visit redpenguinbooks.com and unleash your inner author. And yes, we do deal with handwritten manuscripts. I think we have 2 in process right now. But fortunately, we have 3 authors here who have unleashed their inner author, and they're here, and it's no longer handwritten. It's now already in print. So please welcome Bob Rennulli, Mark Lord, and Joel Harris. Thanks for coming. And thanks for writing.
Thank you.
You know, they say that 90% of the population wants to write a book, and less than, 0.5% in this country actually does.
Wow.
So the chances, this was better than getting struck by lightning that the 3 of you wrote a book. How does it feel? How does it feel to have it out and in a book and done? Is it good?
Accomplished. Yes.
Accomplished.
It feels very good.
I love that. Accomplished.
I have to say that I would fall into that small number of people who didn't necessarily want to write a book.
Oh, wow!
It was never one of my bucket list items, but thanks to a lot of circumstances that just sort of fell into place, it's been a great experience for me.
And I'll tell our audience that he might say that now, but he's already called me about the second book, and he has all sorts of notes and ideas for the second book. So he might say that, but I think there was an inner author in there somewhere.
You have unleashed a monster.
I've unleashed a monster.
Open the door.
Joel, what are you thinking? Relief, pride? How does it feel that it's done?
It feels good. One of my teachers told me that the day after your book is published is going to be the same as the day before your book is published. Nothing's going to happen.
Yes, in a pragmatic way, but I think that you're a different person the next day. I think that the people that I've worked with, they stand taller the next day, and they should. It's huge.
I owed it to myself. It was something that I always wanted to do. Unfortunately, or fortunately, the day after I graduated from college, I got married. And, which is not, and my wife was still going to school. So we had a nice little rent-controlled apartment on Ocean Avenue, around the corner from Brooklyn College.
Look at that!
And it was a great start, really. And but something you can't go into writing without an income.
Well,
So I went into my father's insurance business.
An insurance man. Okay.
So I went from writing to underwriting. Ha ha ha.
Aha. Okay. So there's a writer in there somewhere. I get that.
Well, in my senior year at NYU, I was taking a short story course and my teacher was a lady named Beatrice Cole.
Okay.
I didn't know who she was. I found out a lot of things later. She was the editor, I think, with Modern Romance or Popular Romance, whatever. And she said to me that I would be a selling author by the end of the course. She loved my stuff. She gave me all kinds. Never gave more than a B+ because my spelling was atrocious, and my typing was worse. But it was worth a B+, and each one with a little love letter. I didn't realize at that point who she was. Otherwise, I might have pursued it. I found out later that in her youth, she was Theodore Dreiser's secretary.
Oh.
So she knew what writing was.
Right.
And
okay.
she had a reputation she had rescued her romance magazine, and she was quite a big wheel in the business, and I walked away from it.
Wow. Well, you do have a pile of books in front of you, so I know you love to read. What'd you bring with you, Joel?
I got little pieces here and there.
Well, you want to share it with us and tell us what you brought?
Yeah, okay. These are the pieces that really got me going. The first one was Gravity's Rainbow.
Okay.
And
why don't you hold it up so our viewers can see the cover?
What's that?
Hold it up so our viewers can see the cover. Yes.
Gravity's Rainbow. And this was the third book that Thomas Pynchon wrote.
Okay.
And this is the one that put him on the map. And it's a 752-page book. Its type size is smaller than mine, which means I got a lot of words here. Most of them very good. So this is very nice. There's no quotes from here.
Oh, that's okay. We just wanted to know what you've been
And the
reading
second
and what
one-
inspired you.
Second one is Raintree County
Okay.
by Ross Lockridge Jr. He lived next door to Masters and Johnson when they were writing their book on sex. It's very interesting. I don't know if he participated in the research or not, but he was there. But his stuff is very, very quotable. So just the beginning of the page here. Can I read it a little
Sure.
bit? Okay. Raintree County, which has no boundaries in time and space, where lurked musical and strange names and mystical and lost peoples, and which was itself only a name, musical and strange.
Ah, okay. That's a
pretty
quote.
heavy stuff, you
Yeah.
know.
Looks like a pretty heavy book, too. And what's the small book you brought with you?
It says, for Raintree County is not the county of the perishable fact, it's the county of the enduring fiction. The clock in the courthouse tower on page 5 of the Raintree County Atlas is always fixed at 9 o'clock, and it's summer, and the days are long.
Nice.
And his book is 1,057 pages.
Joel, I can see you have an affinity towards long books.
Well, the thing is, no, if you're going to write a long book, it damn well better be a good one. You know?
Very nice.
So,
Very nice.
but the size of the book, which is a no-no if you're going to try to get an agent to get published instead of a regular. They kind of have a ceiling of 150,000 words. Even the Amazon annual contest, you can't go over 150,000 words, and mine is 188,000 words, so I can live without winning the contest.
That's a lot of words. That's a lot of words.
Okay, and the third one, just a little piece, the last paragraph from Sister Carrie,
Okay.
which is a tragedy. It says here, well, you promised me we'll get to my book eventually, right? Hold on, where is it? Here it is. Okay. Oh, Carrie, oh, blind striving of the human heart, onward, onward it saith, and where beauty leads, there it follows. Whether it's the tinkle of a lone sheep bell, or some quiet landscape, or the glimmer of beauty in sylvan places, or the show of soul in some passing eye, the heart knows and makes an answer, following. Is when the feet weary and hope seems vain, and the heartache and the longing arises. Know then that for you is neither surfeit nor content. In your rocking chair by your window dreaming shall you log alone. In your rocking chair by your window shall you dream such happiness as you may never feel.
Wow. Wow.
Again, you know,
Some serious writing there.
I grew up on the heavy stuff.
I see that. Well, if you have some books lying around your house that you've already read and loved and been inspired by, and you're wondering quite what to do with them next, please visit thebookfairies.org. We love the Book Fairies here on Long Island. They collect over 50,000 books every single month that they distribute to schools, adult groups. Books go overseas to over 50 different libraries in Africa. So if you have leftover books that you would like to bring to the Book Fairies, you can drop them off there, or you can drop them off here at Between the Covers on a Wednesday night. We always bring books over to the Book Fairies on Thursdays afterwards, and if you bring them here, you get a free glass of wine. So thebookfairies.org for all of your books that you've already loved. We're going to take a short commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Writing a book is the adventure of a lifetime. Red Penguin Books take pride in giving our authors a publishing experience that is stress-free and celebratory all the way. Some of our authors first approach us with no more than an idea for a book that's ready to sprout. Others submit completed manuscripts. Whether you're at either end or anywhere in between, our goal is to get you published. At Red Penguin Books, we offer options and opportunities that are unique in the world of publishing, and all of them are designed to keep you, the author we so deeply respect, in the driver's seat, unlike other publishing houses. So, if you want to write a book and are looking for a publisher, we've got you covered. Red Penguin Books deal in publishing services, book development, and ghostwriting for digital, print, and audiobook. Call us at 516-448-4993 or visit our website, www.redpenguinbooks.com.
Welcome back to Between the Covers. Thanks for joining us. We are so thrilled today, not just to have authors, but a baby author, like brand new, like the book is too hot to touch because it is hot off the presses. Bob Bernoulli published this book about, 36 hours ago.
Feels like it.
I think that the ink is still wet on the page. So in honor of your book, we have a little celebration. Come on now, Kieran.
Oh, wow.
Look at that.
It is your book on a cake.
Oh, will you look at that? Wow. That's very cool.
Isn't that
Thank
the
you.
coolest thing?
Very much.
So it's a Bob book cake. Look at that. So that's
very
to go with
cool.
our wine, and I also brought some champagne
Okay.
because, it's not every day that we get a brand new baby author
Brand
here
new.
on the show.
Yeah.
So look at this. Didn't they do a great job with
They
this?
did. That's amazing.
Wow. Wait. I have to take a quick picture of that. Would you hold your Bob cake? And I'm going to put your Bob book right next to you. And I'm going to just take a quick picture, and our viewers will just wait. God bless these artists who can do cake books. I love that. All right.
Hey.
So congratulations. So now that you have your book and it's been 6 hours, literally,
Yeah.
and you already wrote your first book signing event over the weekend.
I was. Yes.
I know.
That went very well.
Did it? Very
Yeah.
good. Very
And,
good.
while I was finishing up the last edits on this book, I started the National November Writing Month
I love
project.
that. Yes. Would you tell us all about NaNoWriMo? I love that.
NaNoWriMo, the goal, it's really to inspire and encourage writers to really, put the metal to the pedal. The
And
pedal to the metal.
The
sorry.
pedal to the metal.
Pedal
And
to
I
the
love
metal.
that you actually did it.
Yeah, the goal is 50,000 words in 30 days.
Supposed to be fiction.
Yes.
'Cause it's supposed to be a
fiction.
novel.
Yes, a novel. This year the theme was sort of, they recommended time travel. So I wasn't
Oh.
really sure where to go with that. But,
Okay.
I'm working on it. So it involves some physicists and a bunch of, a rich family in Maine and a lot of interaction with some historical events.
So you got your 50,000 words done
I
for
did.
November?
Yes, I finished them on November 30th, and my daughter got married on December 1st. So,
don't know how you
yes,
did
it's been a
that.
very, very busy time. Thank you.
I know authors who conked out around November, 7th, and they said, "Yeah, I'm not going to get this done."
It was a struggle, I'll say.
Was it?
The words came relatively freely, but just finding the time to commit to
50,000
that many
words.
words, yes.
50,000 words it's a lot of words.
Now, this book, the 1,000 Days Northern Vermont, I probably wrote for 2.5 to 3 years, collecting memories for the first 2 years, and then I met you, and you made me turn it into a book.
I did.
So-
I forced him. I forced him to turn it into a book. I love that. Yes, tell our viewers a little bit about what the 1,000 days you were doing in northern Vermont.
From approximately 1975 to 1977, I lived on the Canadian border in northern Vermont on the spine of the Green Mountains. At 19, a young hippie type, I moved up to the mountains and was part of a commune.
That's the way I described the book too. That he graduated from high school and he lived like a hippie for 1,000 days.
That's about
And then
right.
he came back to real life, and now
Well,
you'd never
yes.
know.
It was an amazing adventure. We started out with very spiritual values. Tried to save the world in high school and realized, well, nobody really cared, so we decided to go hide in the mountains. So while we were there was a lot of interesting things that happened. We discovered a town that was forgotten when the river changed course and unearthed some foundations. There was a secret military project on the other side of the mountain that we would hear explosions in the middle of the night.
Wow.
A lot of wild animals. First night in the bedroom was 20 below zero in the bedroom, so it was an experience.
And you met up with, weren't they like some killers that were?
Well, yes. Many of the people that were there met a tragic end. But I don't want to go too far.
No,
spoilers
Read
for the book here.
Read the book. Absolutely.
But yes, there was a couple of unsavory characters that came into the mix.
But
and
thankfully, Bob
changed
is
the
still
dynamic.
here.
Yeah, well, maybe that encouraged why I came back to New York State and became a uniform court officer for the New York State court system. So,
Put away the hippie beads, cut the hair.
well, yeah, I got a haircut the day before I started that job, and the first thing she told me was get a haircut.
Yeah.
And it was the union president that made me take off the beads. So.
Well, you clean up really nice.
Well,
now.
thanks.
You look
yes.
really, really
But,
good.
it's been a great experience. You know, it's almost at a day we met a year ago.
Yes.
And, started writing in earnest, toward the
Right,
book goal
right.
a month or two after that.
And here you are.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's been
here
a
you
great
are, not
experience.
only published with this, but 50,000 words in on your next one.
Yes.
And you are just on fire.
Well, I have to say, though, when this was published, and I met the 30 days, I haven't pulled a word out of my head since. So, a little bit of respite, I think, was in order.
I think it's a good
It was a
idea.
wonderful experience, and the
You don't even want to
editing
write
process,
a check at this point, never mind.
Who writes checks? It's all online now.
Exactly. Well, that's good. So you don't have to write anything. I think you get a month
right.
off after NaNoWriMo.
Yeah. Well, yes. I need to take a little more time off, but
I think
I'll be
so.
back at it. So
I have
it's
no
been a
doubt
wonderful
that you'll
experience.
be back
Yes.
at it. Well, I know that when your book was published, and this was kind of a funny story, you were out of town. Where were you, down south or something?
I was in Virginia, I believe. Yes.
And the first copy you ever saw of your book, somebody else had bought.
Somebody else had bought. My brother-in-law had purchased 3 copies of the book, and he wanted to make sure they were there. One, so I could sign them, and they wanted to read them, of course, but they wanted to have it when I arrived.
I think that's
so I
hilarious.
thought that was wonderful. Yes.
Your author copies hadn't even been delivered to you
That's
yet,
right.
and people were buying them off of Amazon and
I
showing
hadn't
them
seen
to you.
the book yet, so I just sat there, just kind of staring at
I'm
it.
sure. I'm sure you just sat there like, you have my book. I don't even have my book. You're not the first author of mine that's happened to that. The author is not the first person to see the book. Somebody else was buying the
Yeah.
book. I think, Mark,
It happened to me as well.
it happened to you as well. That
Interesting.
other people
And
bought the
finally,
book first.
Stephanie said, "You know what, Mark? I'm going to order one from
gonna
Amazon
get you a book."
and have it sent directly to your house." And that's how I got my copy.
I wish I had thought of that.
Yeah, right.
Up front.
Order
I
your
didn't-
own copy because this is taking too long.
Yes, but I want to just thank you. You've been so wonderful in
Well,
this process,
it
and I really
has
appreciate
been
it.
absolutely my pleasure working with you
Thank
on
you.
this, and I'm delighted to hear that we have another book in the works.
Yeah, well, it should come out sometime next year if I can stay on top of it and get back into the swing of things. So.
And one of my favorite things you told me is that before the book was even out, you drove around northern Vermont,
Yes.
visiting shops and places, some of which are mentioned in the book.
Yep.
And they cleared a shelf. They're all ready to stock the
That's
book
right.
there.
One of the chapters has to do with Bread and Puppet Theater, which was a very politically oriented puppet show, some of them 20 feet tall, very popular in the 60s in the cities. And they have a farm, Bread and Puppet Theater. They run this, our domestic resurrection circus. And
Okay.
every year they do it, but it used to be a really wild event. I mean, thousands of people just kind of romping around.
Wow.
But I had the pleasure of meeting the guy who's running the place.
Oh.
And it was a great experience, and he offered for me to put some of my books on the
I
shelf.
think that's fabulous. Well, I love the whole adventure of it. Mark had a big book launch party with, Broadway people and all sorts. I just love the adventure and the things that happen. Kind of like you meeting, someone from Bread and Puppet. That's
Yes.
just amazing that it's part of the adventure. And I'm sure, well, Joel's book has to do with, the underworld, so God only knows what adventures he had, so I'm terrified. But it's all part of the adventure
Yes.
of writing it, which is very,
Truly.
very cool.
Yeah.
Now, tell us a little bit about this next project. I mean, you'll be back on the red sofa when it's ready, but
When it's ready.
Can-
Well, yeah,
you give
I
us a little
started to
clue?
introduce it before. Essentially, the title of the book is Tempest's Treasure.
okay.
So it has to do with time, Tempest, and treasure is obvious. So the treasure is on several different levels. So certainly the surface treasure of gold and silver and gems and things like that.
Right, right.
But there's something else hidden in the mix that they soon discover, and it falls into the realm of the physicists that were, studying time and, Einstein's theories. So I researched Einstein a little bit and general theory of relativity and simplified theory just to get a sense of it. But I'm writing fiction.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't have to understand it. I just have to have something to lift from,
Love that.
Yeah, so it was a fun experience, and I'm enjoying it. So I brought in things that I enjoy. I enjoy Vikings, I enjoy pirates, I enjoy the Knights Templar, and
Yeah,
adventurous
all good
things like
stuff.
that. And
All
what I
good
found
stuff.
in my research was that each of them, there were periods in history where they sort of disappeared.
Oh.
Well, in my book, I found them. So
I have no doubt.
Yeah.
50,000 words later, you found them.
I did, yes.
Well, I am finally going to get my autograph from Bob. Since I haven't gotten an autograph yet, we're going to have some cake and champagne with our audience here, and we'll be right back.
Are you interested in writing, but you're unsure how to get started? Or perhaps you're already an author, but want to hone your skills and receive supportive yet constructive feedback? Welcome to WebWritersRetreat.com. Developed to help once and future authors like you to gain from positive and supportive criticism of your submissions from other writers and our professional staff, push forward through personal timetables and writing exercise sessions, sharpen your skills through group coaching and Q&A sessions with literary experts, receive practical resources such as templates, downloads, links, online courses, and free ebooks. Benefit from book reviews and opportunities to join a beta team to enrich yourself as well as other authors. Save with special discounts for publishing services and online courses, social media, and email marketing, and a whole lot more. Visit WebWritersRetreat.com and turn your writing dreams into reality.
Do you have a book, either in your head or on your desk, just waiting to get out to anxious readers? Hi, I'm Stephanie Larkin, author, book developer, and head penguin at Red Penguin Books. We're a publishing company specializing in books of all genres and publishing in all formats, including digital, audible, and print books. From business books to romance, memoirs to mysteries, our authors have complete control over their books from start to print. We'll help get your book to booksellers all around. Major booksellers such as Amazon, Apple, Kobo, Walmart, even libraries and bookstores around the world. We believe in our authors. So call or email today to get your free publisher's packet to get started. Just visit us at redpenguinbooks.com and get your book out there and into the hands of your readers. At Red Penguin Books, you call all the shots. So call us today and turn your dreams into a reality. Welcome back to Between the Covers. Thanks for joining us. It's pretty sad when I have to get my own author to open the champagne. Our next author is not quite as hot off the presses. It's been a whole month, 2 months?
Just about.
Just about 2 months. Mark Lord is the author of The Theater and I, A Chat with Facebook Friends. Love this book.
Thank you.
So very unique. So tell us a little bit about the book and about the fun we've been having.
Well, we've been having a lot of fun.
That's the goal.
And the way the book came about surprised me probably more than anybody. I've spent a lot of time on Facebook talking about one of my favorite things in life, which is the theater. And as it turns out, I happen to have a lot of friends who also like the theater. And several years back, I happened to put up a question one day asking about what particular moment in a show always seems to get a nice round of applause from the audience. And I expected that a few people would respond, but lo and behold, I had a great response to it. And being the ham that I am, it naturally inspired me to ask another question and another and another.
Ah, those theater people.
I know, you can't stop us once we get started. And then for a while I laid off, and about 2 years ago, I guess it was, I decided to give it another shot. But this time it was a more formalized thing where every Friday morning I would post a theater-related question, and the responses kept growing and growing from week to week. When we hit question number 52, which marked the 1-year anniversary, I said to the people who were following this, instead of my asking you a question, why don't we turn the tables and have you ask me questions, which I will then answer? So one of my friends wrote to me on Facebook and asked me if I had ever thought about compiling these questions into a book. And I wrote back and I said, you know, that sounds very familiar. Did you ever ask me that question before? And another friend joined the conversation and said, well, I asked you that a few months ago, Mark. And I said, do you mean to tell me there are actually 2 people who think this would be a good idea for a book?
2 buyers.
And
there we
you
go.
And I thought, and I said, well, now all I need is a publisher, LOL, using the vernacular from Facebook. Well, not very long after that, I heard from a woman who said, Hi, Mark. I'm a publisher, and I've been following your questions with some interest, and I've been meaning to reach out to you about a possible book. And that woman turned out to be Stephanie Larkin. So things happened very quickly from that point on. And as I said earlier, I had never had any desire to write a book, and it just sort of fell into my lap, and it has been a phenomenal experience for me, from our first meetings right through the book signing event. And,
Which, of course, his book signing event had entertainment and singing and piano playing, and it was held, of course, in a theater.
True to the theater.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Absolutely. And may I tell a little bit about
please.
The thread that ties
Yes,
the book
yes.
together? When I was 9 years old, I was living with my family in Puerto Rico, and my parents took my brother and me to see a production of The King and I at a theater known as the Tapia, which is an historic theater in Old San Juan. I was 9 years old at the time, and it was that night that literally changed my life. I've been hooked on the theater ever since, and The King and I, to this day, remains my favorite show. And it is in tribute to that I came up with the title of The Theater and I.
Yes.
And we even decided to go with the same lettering and the same style, so that hopefully people would connect the two. And I tell the story of how The King and I has affected me pretty much throughout my life. 10 years after that performance in Puerto Rico, by this time I was now back in New York, and I found out that there was going to be a production of The King and I outdoors at Lincoln Center at Damrosch Park. Right. And lo and behold, several of the same people who had appeared in Puerto Rico were going to be in the show again, including the woman who played Mrs. Anna. And since I don't throw out any theatrical related memorabilia, I still had the playbill from San Juan.
From 9 years old.
From when I was 9, and I brought it with me to Lincoln Center, and after the show I went up to her at the stage door and I said, "There's something I've been waiting 10 years to ask you." And she said, "What is that?" And I said, "Would you please autograph this?"
Oh, wow.
And on the cover she inscribed it to Mark, like, "Here's to the next 10 years," or something to that effect. And I thought, how cool would it be if we could somehow meet up every 10 years? Like they do in those, I think they're called the 7-Up movies,
okay,
where they reunite every 7 years. But that was way before the internet and Facebook. And
right.
So fast forward maybe 40 years, I guess, and we would eventually meet up again. And if you want to find out how that came about,
you have to buy the book.
You have to get the book and read it, because it's all right there. And I was thrilled that Mrs. Anna, and I would like to mention her name.
Sure.
I knew her as Catherine Jacoby.
Right.
She now goes by the name Loria Parker. And she was at the book signing.
And singing
and she
excerpts from The King and
a couple
I.
of songs from The King and I for us. And she was the big surprise for everybody who was there.
Absolutely. That was just amazing to have her at the book signing. So yes, this is a great book, and you have to read to find out what happened to Anna. But what's also interesting is all of these questions and all of these people who have piped in their top 10 list of favorite shows, wildest moment they ever saw on a Broadway stage.
And what I think is interesting is that my friend, I'm a former high school English teacher, and I'm still in touch with a lot of my students who vary in age. So the people who contributed the answers to the question cover a wide spectrum of generations, and pretty much based on what generation they're part of, they answered accordingly. So it has a wide view of responses.
Certain people, everything they answer
Certain people like Guys and Dolls, and other people like Dear Evan Hansen.
Yes.
You know, so.
And that's great. So there's a little bit of everything in here.
Absolutely.
I love that. Well, I asked Bob what was next on his agenda, and he's 50,000 words in already. What's next on your agenda?
Well, as you mentioned before, we just started talking about it. So
You've been bitten by the writing bug.
I don't know that anything is firm yet, but we've got a few ideas going, and hopefully...
this will not be the last we see of Mark.
Hopefully not. And I thank you very much for making all this happen.
My pleasure. This has been very, very exciting. And it's our first Facebook book. You know what? I have a feeling it's not going to be our last Facebook book, because that's where people are writing nowadays.
Really?
Some people will write just a blurb, but just like Instagram is where a lot of poets are now getting their foot in the door on Instagram. About 2 weeks ago, we had a poet here who had released 3 or 4 books of poetry already, and he got his start on Instagram, and he posts one poem, and that's kind of where all of the young poets go on Instagram. And I'm seeing more and more. We actually are working on another Facebook book in our publishing house right now that's going to be released probably next month.
Wow.
So people writing on Facebook, and then they end up with this huge amount of content and say, oh, maybe I could turn this into a book. Just like now, your next one is a fiction book.
Yes.
A lot of fiction authors, what they're doing is they're actually going to podcasts, so that they're releasing one chapter, let's say a week, on Spotify or some other means, and people are loving to listen. People are in the car. Audio books and podcasts are the fastest growing segment of the publishing market right now, because we're all so busy. So a lot of fiction writers are releasing to podcasts or other things so people can listen on their way to work, and then next week they get the next one. So, the good old-fashioned sitting there with a typewriter, you're all kind of morphing into social media.
Well, I'm glad that this was your first.
It was my first Facebook book. That's why I said, I know it's not going to be our last, because we're already in process on another one right now.
Cool.
But I'm glad it worked out.
Thank you.
So glad it worked out for you. And I'm even happier that there's more books on the way.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I appreciate your help.
And I'm glad that, any words of wisdom for aspiring writers out there?
You never know when something is just going to come along that will inspire you. And I guess this was just a case where everything just came together very
Stars
naturally.
aligned.
So maybe the best advice I would give is don't necessarily look for something to happen, and hopefully it will just happen for you the way this came about for me.
Life is what happens when we're trying to make plans, isn't that?
That's
Busy
right.
making other plans.
Is that the quote? Okay. Well, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with Joel Harris. Thanks for joining us.
Are you interested in writing, but you're unsure how to get started? Or perhaps you're already an author, but want to hone your skills and receive supportive, yet constructive feedback? Welcome to WebWritersRetreat.com. Developed to help once and future authors like you to gain from positive and supportive criticism of your submissions from other writers and our professional staff, push forward through personal timetables and writing exercise sessions. Sharpen your skills through group coaching and Q&A sessions with literary experts. Receive practical resources such as templates, downloads, links, online courses, and free ebooks. Benefit from book reviews and opportunities to join a beta team to enrich yourself as well as other authors. Save with special discounts for publishing services and online courses, social media, and email marketing, and a whole lot more. Visit WebWritersRetreat.com and turn your writing dreams into reality.
Do you have a book, either in your head or on your desk, just waiting to get out to anxious readers? Hi, I'm Stephanie Larkin, author, book developer, and head penguin at Red Penguin Books. We're a publishing company specializing in books of all genres and publishing in all formats, including digital, audible, and print book. From business books to romance, memoirs to mysteries, our authors have complete control over their books from start to print. We'll help get your book to booksellers all around. Major booksellers such as Amazon, Apple, Kobo, Walmart, even libraries and bookstores around the world. We believe in our authors. So call or email today to get your free publisher's packet to get started. Just visit us at redpenguinbooks.com and get your book out there and into the hands of your readers. At Red Penguin Books, you call all the shots. So call us today and turn your dreams into a reality.
Welcome back to Between the Covers. Our next author is Joel Harris, who we know from earlier has a love of big books, and this is a big, big book. I was very careful with it not to drop it on my toe. Thank you for sending it along in advance. I got arm muscles reading this book. You know
I got arm muscles carrying them around.
I can only imagine, because every time I picked it up off my nightstand so that I could read a little bit, I said, wow, I am really growing some arm muscles. It's funny that you're sitting there next to Mark with his theater, because we have here a memory of Rogers and Hart is at the back of his book too. So there's a little overlap going on here.
Yeah.
But Public Parts is a fabulous, fun book, you know, for all this. Tell me, how long ago did you write it, and how long did it take you?
Well, it depends.
10 years.
It depends on where you put the start. Okay.
Okay.
Physically, 1993, September, I was recovering from back surgery, and successfully, I might add. And I had my Everex Tempo computer with my laptop. I had an A drive and a B drive, no C drive. So I was, and you know, I'm flat on my back, and I'm typing, you know, and the story was coming to me. I never suffer from writer's block because I write in my head.
Okay.
When I sit down typing, it's typing out what I already have, you know.
Gotcha.
So it's pretty easy, but it wound up on 12 720K discs.
12 discs?
12 little discs, yeah, because they were 720K.
Yes, they couldn't fit that
and
much.
limited to a 60, I think it was a 64 or something size of each individual file. It was way back. I was running Q&A as a operating system, you know. Anyway, the technicalities, but the actually thought of the book goes back many years before then.
Really? Tell me.
I was unlike these gentlemen here who write about their experiences. For me, writing is the experience.
Okay.
So you know, going strictly doing fiction, you know, and a story was growing in my head over the years, my years of experience in the insurance business, dealing with shady characters, dealing with dedicated employees, dealing with strange clients, everybody with their own agenda, you know, and I'm trying to wind my way through it, you know. So because I had several clients in the auto parts business, and because the 7 other clients were very, very shady characters, and my father, one of his clients was Meyer Lansky.
Okay.
So you know, so I had some first-rate connections to some very bad people, you know. So I was able to fictionalize a lot of my observations, and eventually, you know, crystallizing it into a particular story. I used, they call them models, you know, like painters use models all the time. They're proud of it, okay? Writer's not supposed to say, well, I'm using a model. You know, I have somebody's story that I'm sucking into my book, you know?
That's true.
But this is what happens. In fact, one of the people, the adjuster, who was my model,
Yes.
I read an obit only 3 or 4 days ago. He passed away. He's in his 90s. You know.
Really?
He passed away, you know. But he was the person who I used for the particular character,
Right.
you know. And my experience at the country club, my experiences in various phases. I've led a full life, you know.
That's fabulous.
And after a while, the story came together, and it wasn't good enough, and it went through 8 major revisions,
Wow.
over a period of 20 years, before it was good enough to be published. I wanted to reach a certain standard, which is, to approximate the standard of the books that I love.
Fantastic.
And what the most recent thing that has made me happy was getting the starred review from Kirkus. Do you have a copy? With you?
You know what? It must be on my iPad
You
or
didn't.
something. Yeah. No, you sent it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't print it out.
Okay.
Excellent review.
Pardon me?
Excellent review.
Yeah. They really. Can I read an excerpt or two? I'm not going to read
From the
whole.
book?
Yeah. From the review.
Yeah, from the
book?
review. Do you have it with you?
I have. Oh, sure.
Sure. Yeah, read an excerpt
I have
or two.
a dozen copies with me.
He can sell them on the internet.
let me find one here. Okay. Not going to read the whole thing, but I'm very, very happy with it.
Good.
He says here, okay. So, says in Harris, this is just the beginning. Harris's debut novel, The Dutiful Son, wants to make an honest success of his father's auto parts business, but the mob may still be pulling the scene behind this pulling the strings behind the scene. Anyway, so he has to leave because his father is involved or was involved in the rub out of Kid Twist Relis, who this is the headline from the Brooklyn Eagle.
Oh, okay.
In 1941,
Yes.
he was in police custody, and the guy strangely, theoretically, did away with himself by going out the window.
Oh, okay.
Well, this reminds me of the Epstein story.
Yes, exactly.
Who was in police custody,
He was in
and he
police
managed to
custody.
hang himself.
Right.
So and again, it was investigated slightly,
Okay.
and the case was dropped. So it's like Epstein was investigated slightly, and
Right.
the case is dropped, And maybe 30 years from now, someone will come out and say, well,
Right.
we did it. Anyway, so in Public Parts, the action takes place 30 years after the Kid Twist rub out.
Okay.
And this guy's father, who owned the auto parts business, is somehow involved, and he's got to leave town. And the son is now involved in the auto parts business with some shady people that he was always surprised. His father always kept him on the periphery, didn't want to get him involved in the bad stuff. Now he's in the middle of it, and he doesn't know his way around.
Okay.
So, anyway, so the mob's connection to Public Parts, when a sinister gentleman named Carmine lets Larry know that he's not his own man. Carmine passed away earlier this year. I don't use his last name.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, so his father was involved in an accident that left the mobs to Abe Relis 30 years before, and so Larry is desperate for answers. The old man is caged as ever. Then Larry meets Ann Reardon. He employs her, his executive assistant, with whom he falls instantly and hopelessly in love, even though he's a semi-happily married man. Despite the
Semi-happily
turmoil.
married. I like that. Semi-happily married. Pretty darn semi.
That's from the reviewer, not from me. Despite the turmoil caused by the relationship, Ann is also, as Larry's executive assistant, the best thing that ever happened to Public Parts. This is a tribute, okay, to all the girls that worked for me over the years, that went out of their way to do the right thing and to work so hard, without recognition. No ownership, and she is the hinge to his ultimate vindication. So, Ann is shown to be competent, enigmatic, and eerily perceptive. Big Mo could easily have been a one-note cast father, but his love and care for his only son shows him to have some depth. Larry's wife, Lori, is a study in exasperation, but she's also there when the ship sit down. The dialogue is crackling and sly, and the long trial section featuring the colorful Bernie the attorney, Schwartz, is priceless. You know, this is who needs money?
I love that.
You know what I mean? Well,
that's wonderful.
You
You're
can't
right.
buy. Okay.
No, that's priceless. I am so glad that you said that.
Kirkus gets paid
Who
for the
needs money?
review. Okay, but you can't tell them what to say.
Right.
And I understand from people I speak to that they're very rough on indie authors. And I was extremely pleased when he gave me the recognition that I wanted. You know, I mean, it's nice to sell. It's nice to sell a book now and then. You know, but it's nice to get the recognition from your peers.
Absolutely.
Very important.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Okay.
So tell me, what's next on your agenda? Is there another book? Is there a...
Try and find ways to promote it. I have. This is the middle book of a trilogy.
Okay.
There's a prequel, which is in the formative stages, and there's a planned sequel.
Okay.
Which brings Larry up to date.
Okay. So when do we get to see the prequel or the sequel?
After I get a certain number of copies sold of this book.
Oh, so
It's not going to happen.
why are you waiting to sell copies before you write the other books?
What's that?
You're waiting to sell copies
I'm
before
not
you write
waiting.
the
I'm
other?
actively engaged.
Okay.
In trying to.
But you're not actively engaged in writing.
Well, in what's left of my spare time. Okay.
In your head, because I know you mentioned you write in your head first before you type, which is
Yeah,
which
that
is
can
fabulous.
go on.
This
That
way,
can go on for years. I have
well, especially this one took
Yeah.
years.
if you want me to read an excerpt, what I do is I play Russian roulette with the pages. Okay. You pick a page out of thin air, and that's where I read. With the exception, there's 4 dull pages. I'm not going to read one of those. And also, I'm not going to read any part that's a major turning point, a plot
Is that how you
giveaway.
write also? Do you write with Russian roulette?
Pardon me?
Do you write with Russian roulette also?
Almost, because I don't write in a linear manner. I write whatever comes to mind. A scene comes to mind, I will write the scene. Then after a while, I fit it in. And if it's not in the right place, I fit it in somewhere else. It's called cut and paste.
Well, when you had how many discs were there again?
Pardon me?
How many discs were there originally? 17 discs?
Well, at one time now. I
computer
mean,
discs?
I've modernized since
Right,
then.
right. But did you mix them all up to see where the chips would fall, or you had an order?
That's interesting. I never did that, you know.
Well, you mentioned doing it via roulette. That's why I asked the question.
No, I was very careful at that point. You know, you can't be careless with this stuff. You know, because
Absolutely.
you lose your continuity.
Absolutely.
You know? In
Well,
fact,
I
there-
certainly want an autograph because the prequel and the sequel are going to come out, and then I'm going to stand in line for an autograph. So I'm going to grab a quick autograph, and we're going to take a break to hear from our sponsors.
Okay, fine.
Would you pass that over? Welcome back to Between the Covers. Thanks so much for joining us. Well, we were sitting here during the commercial break, eating cake, because that's what we do during the break. But shopping season is in full throes, and fortunately, all of our authors' books are available on that great company in the sky that can get you stuff in 24 hours or less. So, Bob, tell us about your book and who should we buy it for?
Well, this is my book. It's 1,000 Days, Northern Vermont, 1970s. I think this would be great for anybody that really appreciated the back to nature movement in the 70s.
I like
and that covered a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. The
A
whole
lot of
Woodstock
people.
crowd,
Thousands
the whole,
of people. There were dozens and hundreds of communes in northern Vermont and around the country when everybody split up from the cities and started heading to the backwoods. But it's a story of discovery. It's a journey through some very interesting space, and it's a coming of age tale. I think it would really fit a fairly wide audience.
And you mentioned to me, you didn't mention it to our viewers, but you started writing because you were at a point in your life that you wanted to remember who you were.
Yes, I was at a point in my life where things were going on, and I just was having trouble figuring out who I was. I kind of lost track of myself a little bit.
So when you said that about coming of age and all, a lot of people when they hit, the middle years want to get back to who am I really?
Right. So what I did is I went back to a time of certainty. A time when I really knew who I was. Whether I was right or wrong, it didn't matter.
It didn't matter,
there was no question. I knew who I was.
You were committed.
I was 19 and infallible, and there was no sense of mortality.
Fantastic.
And I followed myself back, and I have a pretty good idea of who I am now.
So that's 1,000 Days by Bob Bernoulli, and that can go for a lot of different people.
I think it covers a wide crowd. Yes.
Absolutely. Mark, how about you?
I think mine also should appeal to a wide audience.
If
we have a wide number of people who contributed to it.
We do.
And I think that it's called The Theater and I, a chat with Facebook friends. And as I was writing it, one of the things I wanted to do was to make it of interest to people who already are theater aficionados, but also hopefully to get young people interested, and maybe some of my other friends who were not necessarily theater people, to try to get them interested. So if you know anybody in your life who has been following theater, or that you think might take a liking to it, I think it's
I know
it's
thousands
the
of
kind
people
book.
on 44th Street right now in Broadway who would like that. So
I think hopefully they will
fantastic.
like
The
it.
Theater and I by Mark Lord. And Joel, how about you? Who's going to your book is going to appeal to most for this shopping season?
Okay, I think this is an excellent book that someone should buy for themselves as well as to give away. It follows the protagonist, Larry Levine, through thick and thin, the turning moments of his life, and how he perseveres with the help of others, and the mistakes he makes, etc. People who have read the book enjoy it. I have any number of 5-star reviews on Amazon.
Fantastic.
And a lot of people who don't post on Amazon who've written to me how much they enjoyed the book, and it gives me a tremendous pleasure to know that the communication from the author to the reader works well.
Terrific. So that's Public Parts by Joel Harris.
May I just add one more
Sure.
thing? I think you mentioned about the Amazon reviews. I've gotten a bunch of 5-star reviews too. So
Yes.
we seem to be doing okay with,
All right.
with our followers.
Bob's
but
book has been on Amazon for about 45 minutes, so
I got
they're
one.
coming.
I got one.
But you got one.
I was going to say my favorite review has to be from a former student of mine who I know not to be a voracious reader, and he wrote to me and he said, when the book arrived, I thought, wow, that's going to take me forever to get through it. He said, I decided I would read one chapter a night. And he said, Mr. Lord, I've had the book for 4 days, and I'm already on chapter 19.
Oh, what a wonderful
So-
thing to hear from a former student. I love that. Well, we hope that you have some happy shopping and that some of these books find their way under your tree. And thank you so much for joining us on Between the Covers. If you want to see some past episodes or sign up for our mailing list, please visit BetweenTheCoversTV.com, and you could watch this episode and all of our episodes. Thanks for joining us, and happy holidays.
Thank you.